I am a Swiss born Indian. Whenever I am at an airport, the airport security sometimes mistreats me until I show them a Swiss passport. Raising the tantalizing question of why Indian people need a visa to and go through all these difficulties, whereas people from other countries like Argentina or Mexico, who are much poorer, enjoy visa free access to the EU and even some to the US. There's a word for this. It's called racism. It's all about skin color. Argentina is a Christian country. Most of the people are of European origin. Most of the people who are visible are of European origin. The natives have been mostly wiped out. When it comes to Mexico, Mexico is a brown country. They look like Indians. You go to the US, if you're Indian, people will mistake you for a Mexican very often. But Mexico, again, is a Christian country. It's under the US umbrella. So that's why things are better for the Mexicans if they travel to Europe, etc. But for other brown people from the Middle East, from India, etc., there are all kinds of restrictions. So let's understand how these restrictions started. 100 years ago or 150 years ago, there were no restrictions. There was no requirement to carry a visa or a passport or anything. You could just travel, right? In the old days, the system of passports and visas did not exist. When Mohandas Gandhi went to the UK and from there he went to South Africa, he did not have to apply for a visa to go to all these places. He traveled through various other countries as well while going there. There was no requirement of a visa. So how did all this start? How did these borders become so inviolable? And how did this system of having to apply for a visa before you were able to go to a country? How did all this emerge? So what happened is that in the last 500 years, the Christian countries, the Western countries, the European countries, they colonized most of the civilized world. They destroyed the local culture, civilization, and they plundered and stole all the wealth. They reduced all of these countries, all of these cultures and civilizations to destitution, especially India. They stole all the wealth, and all of the wealth of the East and of Africa as well was transferred into the hands of a small percentage of the world's population, the white skinned people, the Europeans, and their colonies in the US, in North America, South America, etc. So these are the people who now held the vast majority of the world's wealth. Now, if you allow people to travel unrestricted, then you will find that people who have been made very poor will want to now travel to the countries where the wealth resides so that they can enjoy the better living standards. So, to prevent that from happening, all these restrictions were put in place. And because it was the black skinned people of Africa and the brown skinned people of Asia, mostly India, who had been whose countries had been destroyed and whose wealth had been stolen. So the majority, the strongest restrictions were placed on these people, on Indians and on Africans. So today you find that there is this discrimination. If an Indian wants to go to the US, if an Indian wants to go to the EU or whatever, they have to fill up a long visa form and wait for, I don't know how long it is, a week, a month, whatever, for they have to go to the embassy, they have to stand in queue, they have to answer a questionnaire or interview or whatever, and there's a whole number of documents you have to provide to them just to prove that you are worthy of coming to their great country. But when they come to India, when Americans or Europeans come to India, that they complain about the visa process. Oh, it's so tedious, and we were made to fill up this form and things like that. We are accustomed to walking into a country and not needing a visa. So they have these double standards. When it comes to Indians, they want to put all kinds of restrictions in place. But when they come to India, they want to have visa free access to the country. And when they don't get it, they complain. They crib about it, right? So there is the concept of reciprocity, right, which India doesn't follow. Actually, we give too many benefits to these people while we don't get those benefits. So this is all nothing but racism. It all depends to a large extent on the color of your skin. If you are born in Europe, you will know that racism has always been latent in Europe. It's always been like kind of below the surface, but nowadays in times of war it's all come out into the open. It's very ugly. Racism, I mean, we in India believe that Europe is a very progressive place. There is no racism, there is equality, egalitarianism, very liberal place, very liberal countries, especially the Western European countries. That is not quite the case, my friends. If you live in those countries, you will see that there is a latent racism always below the surface. You're always treated a little differently depending on the color of your skin. and that's how it has always been. So I'm not surprised that you are a Swiss born person and yet you face all these problems with airport security. I am sure elsewhere too. So this is what's known as racism. It's a mostly a European thing. It is they who have invented this. Other countries are not racist, not to that extent, at least not to that extent, the way the Europeans are racist. You will find Russians are not racist. You will not see racism among Russians, which is strange. I mean, let me give you an example. When the Indian Prime Minister goes to Washington, see his body language. Is it comfortable or is it kind of not very comfortable? Now, see the Indian Prime Minister's body language when he goes to the Middle East, when he meets the head of state of the UAE or Saudi Arabia. See the body language. It's way more relaxed and comfortable. See the Indian Prime Minister's body language when he meets the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. It's very relaxed, very comfortable. But when the Indian Prime Minister goes to, let's say, Washington and meets the US President, the body language is much more tense. So you can see, I mean, these are very subtle things, but you can observe that. So there is a difference in the way Indians are treated in certain countries, especially in what we know as the West, compared to other countries.